Before we start, let's ask ourselves what we want from life. How can we make good decisions? Have you ever made a snap decision you later regretted? Or wondered why some problems seem so easy to solve, while others feel like a huge mental workout? What are some mistakes we should avoid? These are great questions to ask because they point us towards making better decisions in both our professional and private lives. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Jackson Talks channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most influential books on the human mind, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking, Fast and Slow. Kahneman, a Nobel Prize winning psychologist, introduces a revolutionary idea. Our brains are run by two different systems. Understanding them can change the way you see every decision you make, from what to have for lunch to a major life choice. To understand these two systems, we need to go back to the basics. We all know that the brain has billions of neurons that form connections with each other. These connections allow us to think and act. However, all the areas of the brain are not working at the same time. Instead, it works in networks. This means that there are certain parts of the brain that are active when we think about one thing and not another. For example, when you think about your childhood home, a network of neurons is activated that is different from the network that is activated when you think about your favorite food. These separate networks are also active when we make different decisions. When we're faced with a decision, a network of neurons in our brain becomes active that's associated with the way we think about that decision. The way we think about a decision depends on whether we use System 1 or System 2 thinking. So, let's meet our two ways of making decisions, System 1 and System 2. First off, System 1, the fast thinker. When you use System 1 thinking, it is fast, intuitive, and emotional. It's the kind of thinking that we use when we make snap judgments or when we have a gut feeling about something. Think about it this way. When you hear a loud noise, you automatically turn your head. When you see a picture of a cute puppy, you instantly feel a sense of warmth. When you do a simple math problem, like adding 2 plus 2, the answer of 4 will just pop into your head. That's all System 1 at work. It's an evolutionary marvel, designed to make thousands of quick decisions to keep us safe and efficient. It's why you can drive on a familiar road and suddenly realize you don't remember the last 5 minutes. System 1 was on autopilot. System 2, the slow thinker. Activating System 2 thinking, on the other hand, is slow, deliberate, and rational. It's the kind of thinking we use when we're trying to figure out whether we should buy a new car or when we are trying to decide what career path to follow. That's when System 2 steps in to help when things get complicated. Think about a complex math problem, like 17 times 24, or parking a car in a very tight space, or trying to find a friend in a crowded stadium. With this type of thinking, we carefully consider the pros and cons of each option and try to come up with the best possible decision. These tasks require focus, concentration, and above all, conscious effort. Remember that System 2 is the lazy controller. It prefers to sit back and let System 1 handle things. It only steps in when it's absolutely necessary. This is where the potential risk of tension begins. The lazy controller and the bat and ball problem. Kahneman's most famous example to illustrate this issue is the bat and ball problem. Let me ask you. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? I'll give you a moment. Your System 1 brain likely jumped to the answer of 10 cents. It's an intuitive and satisfying answer. But it's wrong. If the ball costs 10 cents and the bat costs $1 more, the bat would be $1.10. That's a total of $1.20, not $1.10. The correct answer is 5 cents. The bat costs $1.05, which is exactly $1 more, for a total of $1.10. If you were to engage System 2 brain, you would have caught that error. This is a classic example of System 1 making a quick but flawed decision, then the lazy System 2 brain not stepping in to correct it. Cognitive biases and heuristics. This interplay between the two systems leads to a fascinating and sometimes frustrating outcome, cognitive biases and heuristics. So let's look at how each system affects our decision-making. System 1 thinking is often the result of heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts that System 1 uses to make decisions quickly. They're usually helpful, but they can also lead to predictable errors or biases. The anchoring effect. Have you ever seen a price tag that says $500, now on sale for $250? You might think you're getting a great deal, but that original $500 price is an anchor. It influences your perception of value. Even if the item is only worth $100, your System 1 is anchored to the first number it saw. The availability heuristic. This is our tendency to overestimate the likelihood of events that we find easy to recall. For example, after a plane crash is all over the news, people often become more afraid of flying, even though statistically, driving a car is far more dangerous. The image of the plane crash is vivid and available in your mind, leading your System 1 to believe it's more common than it really is. Confirmation bias. This is when our brains seek out and favor information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. We all do this. If you believe a certain political policy is good, you're more likely to watch news channels or read articles that support that view, while dismissing information that contradicts it. Your System 1 is happy to find patterns and connections, and your System 2 is too lazy to challenge it. Practical takeaways. So, how can we use this knowledge? The point of this isn't to say that our intuition is always wrong, it's to teach us to be more aware of it. The key takeaway is to know when to trust your gut and when to slow down and let the slower System 2 take over. Become aware of your biases. The first step is simply being able to recognize when a bias might be at play. When faced with a decision, ask yourself, is my first reaction a result of an intuitive shortcut, or have I truly thought this through? Create deliberate processes for important decisions. For high-stakes decisions, like a new job, a major purchase, or a medical choice, force yourself to engage System 2. Write down pros and cons. Seek out different viewpoints, including those that challenge your initial opinions. Don't rely on gut feelings for complex problems. While intuition might be great for things you've done thousands of times, it's not a reliable guide for new or complex situations. The power of framing. Remember, we have done a video on the framing of ideas and its power. Check it out to get a better understanding of this tool. Kahneman shows that how a question is framed can change the answer. For example, a medical procedure with a 90% survival rate sounds much better than one with a 10% mortality rate, even though they are the same thing. Be mindful of how information is presented to you. However, System 2 thinking can also be problematic. For example, we might get stuck in analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is when we overthink a decision and end up not making a decision at all, or we might make a decision based on faulty reasoning. Understanding thinking fast and slow is about becoming a better thinker, not simply by eliminating our quick, intuitive thoughts, but by learning to harness our slow, deliberate ones. It allows us a framework to understand our own minds and make better, more rational choices in a world that often wants us to make a quick decision. So you might be wondering, which system should I use to make decisions? Well, the answer is that it depends on the situation. If it's a snap decision that doesn't have a big impact on our lives, then System 1 thinking is probably fine. But if it's a big decision, then we should use System 2 thinking. Of course, this isn't always easy to do. Sometimes big decisions need to be made quickly, and sometimes small decisions can have a big impact. But generally speaking, the more important the decision, the more we should use System 2 thinking. It's also important to note that these two systems aren't mutually exclusive. That is, we often use both System 1 and System 2 thinking when making decisions. Now we're using logic and reason to make a more deliberate decision. It's not just our thinking that's fast or slow. Our emotions can also operate fast and slow. When we're happy or excited, we tend to think fast. When we're sad or depressed, we tend to think slow. This is because our emotions control the way our brain works. When we're feeling positive emotions, our brain is more likely to use System 1 thinking. When we're feeling negative emotions, our brain is more likely to use System 2 thinking. So now you know that we have two systems of thinking, System 1 and System 2, and that our emotions can affect the way we think. The question is, how can we use this knowledge to improve our decision making? Well, there are three things we can do. First, we can try to be more aware of our thinking and emotions. This will help us to recognize when we are using System 1 thinking and when we are using System 2 thinking. It will also help us to realize when our emotions are getting in the way of making good decisions. Second, we can try to boost our mood. By improving our mood, we'll be able to use System 1 thinking more often. Finally, we can try to slow down our thinking. By slowing down our thinking, we'll be able to use System 2 thinking more often. There are a few ways we can do this. One is to simply take our time and really think about any decision before making it. Another way to slow down our thinking is to use a decision-making tool such as a pros and cons list. That's it for today's deep dive. Let me know in the comments which cognitive bias you find most interesting. Don't forget to like this video, activate the bell so you get notified, and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and we will see you next time.